Welcome to another episode of Behind the Pixel. I'm your host, Joe. Karen Ang deserves better, and she deserves more. She deserves a better person to interview her. She deserves more recognition for her beautiful art. She deserves better from a society that refuses to make sacrifices to save the only planet we have. She deserves more appreciation for everything she has done and is doing to help save us from ourselves. She deserves this all because she is giving so much of herself. A few months have passed since I spoke to Karen for this episode. She's had art projects come out, minted new pieces, and new issues have arisen in society. I wanted to talk to her again because I've gotten better at this, because we kept talking in those months and I got to know her more. But also because I had new questions with new issues to discuss, to which she would have provided phenomenal wisdom and articulate responses to. But she decided to take time for herself rather than to do another recording. And I think that may be the best thing I could do for her, or the very least, to give her space, let her re-energize, and come back stronger to help us all. Art is an expression of emotion and stuff. Like, I thought more guys in this field would be like me and feel that way. And it's confusing that it's not like that. Do you have a different perspective, or has that been similar?
Well, I've not ever been accused of being too emotional, but I don't think, I mean, not in this particular world. But I think, well, first of all, I think generally the world is male dominated, so it's not just the art world or music world that we were talking about. And so crypto art is this brand new space, and one of the reasons why everybody seems so excited is, well, for the last year anyway, I don't know where it is right this second, but in the last year that I've been involved, it's felt like maybe this is a brand new space where we can make the world the way we want it to be, rather than having all the crap that we have in society coming along with us. But what's actually happened, of course, because we're human beings, is that we've brought all our shit with us, right? And so it's the sort of wherever you go, there you are kind of situation. I think a lot of us are idealists, and we're still working really, really hard to make it a better place where artists can get fairly recognized and paid for their work, so artists can finally make a living and all of that stuff. But at the same time, we still have to contend with rampant capitalism and greed and competition and all the power structures that we have in real life, are coming with us into this world. So I think that's totally normal and understandable. But at the same time, I do think it's still worth leaning towards making an environment that we want to occupy. So I think that's the fight right now. And I don't think that, I mean, if you've only been around this space for a month?
2 months,
Okay. Well, if you've been around for more than 2 months, you would have seen that the men are no less reactionary than the women.
Yeah, exactly. I know. Like, I know how I am. Like, I'm emotional. I'm like impulsive. Like, I don't get it. I don't get it at all. Like,
well, it's completely human nature, though, right?
Exactly.
So that's not a problem of gender.
Yes.
That's a problem of just being a human being.
Right.
And the thing to do with maturity is that eventually, after you have everything ricochet and hit you in the eye enough times, to take a deep, like when you see something that triggers you, you take a deep breath and wait at least 10 minutes before you write something and hit reply, right? If everybody did that, there would be a whole lot less drama. And there's no way that you can say that the guys in crypto art are less emotional and reactive than the women in crypto art. Everybody is equally reactive, and and we all get upset, and we all sometimes, me included, will type something that we may regret later, 5 minutes later. And we watch the whole thing blow up and think, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Or maybe I shouldn't get caught up in that particular conversation, because really what good is going to come of getting into an argument with somebody, it might make me feel really good in that moment, or powerful, or like I was right. But ultimately, if our ultimate idealistic goal is to really make a space that's inclusive of everybody, we have to not do that, because it's no fun for anyone. And then when it's no fun, people stop coming. And if the cool people and the nice people and idealistic people stop coming, then we don't have an art movement, right? We just have a bunch of people trying to sell a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. No, that's exactly the issue. Yeah, and I don't know how to fix that. Like maybe you have some insight. Like I did notice that you said with maturity. So it sounds like you're saying I'm not mature because I don't take that deep breath. I just hit reply and I just get into it. Still,
And
like
so do I. But maturity isn't about years. Maturity is about learning from your past mistakes,
right,
right? So
right.
I might be older, but it's not like I'm not tempted to get all upset about something and then give a sarcastic retort or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. Or even sometimes I'm not giving a sarcastic retort and I'll get misunderstood, and then I'll enter the conversation trying to repair the misunderstanding accident cause because other people. But it's a sort of, it's not about anybody being right. It's about the cycle of reactivity.
Mm-hmm.
And in the situation that the world is in right now, everybody is very ready to call out somebody else for being whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the 21st century activity so far as I can see. That's what we do now as a culture, is we call people out and then get in these arguments and get really polarized, and we spend all our time doing this on social media. And that's fine because that's what we're doing right now, but it doesn't necessarily have to happen that way. And maybe once we get through this phase of humanity doing this just because we can, just because we happen to have 24/7 social media, after we move through this phase, we will end up in another phase where we communicate a little bit differently, because we will have learned that actually we're going around in circles and getting really upset. And while we could just actually be making art together and helping each other thrive, and maybe we should do that instead.
There was a book by John something. I'm gonna find out. Remember as soon as the call's over. It's about so you've been publicly shamed is the name of it. He also wrote a book, The Psychopath Test.
Oh yeah, John Ronson.
That's it. Thank you. Um, and it's about like people that are misunderstood on the internet. They go viral, and their lives are ruined. Sometimes it's a positive thing because it's forcing out the white supremacy. Obviously, right now, like we're starting hopefully to get on the same page with like, oh yeah, we need to eradicate this from our humanity. But like there's a lot of like misunderstanding, and like you said, we're so reactionary. We just like want to be that first person to like knock someone else down. There actually is a class on I guess like anti-cancel culture now. It's taught by a black woman, and she's trying to like change the discussion, because the second you try to cancel someone or shoot someone down, you've lost the opportunity for dialogue. And while I understand completely, and I am guilty of shouting the negativity out, and I think there is a place for it on something, she's absolutely right that like you can't just like everything, like you and I have like similar mindsets on a lot of things, right? Like, but we're not going to agree on everything. That doesn't mean I need to knock you down. You and I have an open dialogue about it already, so that's, I think, what needs to start happening now. Now that this is brand new, like you said, it's almost like you read my article and were quoting me, but I'm not going to say that because I had said the literal exact thing. We're at the beginning of something, and real world stuff moves very slow because of governments, because like we can't get everyone on the same page. But like we're relatively all on the same page about this stuff. Like we should be having these conversations now. And that's why I want to like talk to women of crypto art and all of you guys and tell all your stories, because we could actually make this what we want it to be.
Well, I think that the people who are here genuinely, who are artists and were artists before they came, crypto was just, well, for me, and I know other people would disagree, but for me, crypto is a platform and it's a place, it's a new marketplace, and it's a new economy that opens up possibilities for artists that maybe weren't there before. But ultimately, if you're an artist, and it doesn't matter if your platform is crypto or a market stall in France or, um, you know, selling something off a blanket in a favela or whatever, or a gallery in London, it doesn't really matter. An artist is an artist, and this is just another space that creates possibility for art to be made and art to be exchanged, sold, and communities to form. But there's a zillion communities like that around the world that aren't on crypto or on the computer or in VR. I happen to be interested in technologies, emerging technologies, and how they can be used to create artistic and creative communities. That's just happens to be my interest, but I don't think that in any way makes any of the other communities less vibrant or vivid or important, right? So you asked, do you think these platforms will be around selling the art? And actually that was a question somebody asked me recently. If you sign up with a platform that effectively functions as a marketplace or a gallery, depending on which one you choose, and you mint your art with them and the platform goes away, then what happens to your art? Does it disappear? And as I understand it, it doesn't, because you are creating a unique signature for your art on the blockchain. And so therefore, you're already creating a permanent marker in that realm.
Sparrow was trying to explain that issue to me yesterday. And I think that is part of my inexperience with crypto. But also, like, I don't know that I always understand what's the technological aspect of cryptocurrency and stuff. Like, I have friends that are programmers, and I can like keep up with them and ask the right questions to keep the conversation going. That doesn't mean I get it or I'll retain any of this information. But I read something today to that effect, like what happens to art, like, and someone like said like you're just getting the like feeling of ownership and stuff, like, and then they went on to this thing like about like, well, because this is why, like, who is actually hosting the image, like, can you help me understand like what the issue is? Like, I'm trying to like really like understand like whether or not this is sustainable or whether or not this is even like helpful to artists. Well, I guess it is because it's giving people a living. But I wonder if this is going to be a problem and turn people off from collecting NFTs, not in the immediate future, but down the road.
I think that it's helpful to artists not because they're making a living. To me, the most important thing is that artists are making contact and we are able to come together and encourage each other and give each other permission to make art and say, hey, it's okay for you to be here. I think the biggest value in this space is the affirmation that people are getting for art.
When I say make a living, I mean more so to the effect that you don't have to, you can just create for the sake of creating and you will be able to survive on that. Like, as much as like, it's almost like the opposite of the starving artist. Like, you no longer have to starve and sacrifice just to create. Like, it's okay now to create just for the sake of creating.
But and maybe that's true and maybe that will carry on, but we don't know because everything is so volatile and people don't really fully understand the ramifications. And then of course there's the whole ecological effect of what we're doing, which we only just fully began to understand in the last couple of weeks, and getting to grips with that. And I'm sure that no real artist is going to want to overlook that, right? So um, everybody will be interested in the sustainability of what we're doing because, of course, we want to be able to sustain ourselves while being sustainable. Because if it's not sustainable, that means we're going down. So we have to think about it, and it's our responsibility as a community and as individual artists to think about those things. And I have faith that they'll be addressed and worked towards. I don't think anybody wants to blithely create a situation that is totally unsustainable, at least not among the people that I've known in the last year got involved.
Yeah, and maybe it's just because like I don't think I'm the right person to answer those questions at all by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, me neither. I don't have any of the answers. I'm just saying what
Yeah.
I'm currently observing. And
So the ecological aspect of this, I got into an argument with, and I don't think his intent was. I'm sure he cares about the environment, but he is one of those artists that is still refusing to get into NFTs and is, in a way, almost like shaming other artists for diving in and finally getting the opportunity. Like, we've devalued especially digital art to the point where it has no value for the last 30 years. Like, everyone's just like, oh yeah, just copy paste, I can do that. But so his whole issue is the effect of the environment, and we got into an argument because, and I'm interested to get your perspective on this because I've only been able to talk to a few people about it. This, yes, the impact on the environment is a bad thing for crypto artists, but it is a drop in the bucket compared to large corporations polluting oceans, tearing down rainforests, oil companies, refineries, how we produce electricity, which is what NFTs require to be minted. Like, if we were on green renewable energy, if we all focused our energy towards those actual issues, then maybe we could talk about fixing our community and fixing it. And his point is always like, both things can be bad. We can do both at the same time. But like, to me, it always feels like, we're at the bottom of the pyramid arguing amongst ourselves about like, what's happening. And the people at the top are just like, sucks to be them, Like, if we all just like kept punching upwards, like, then we can fix these like smaller issues. But like, until those corporations are held accountable, like, I don't know that I want to discuss these smaller issues yet.
well, I'm in my editorial career, my writing and editing career, I have spent a lot of time working with environmental issues. I was the editor of a magazine called Tunza, um, which is produced by the United Nations Environment Program. So I worked for UNEP, and I wrote and edited a magazine for young people who are interested in environmental issues, young activists and young people who were studying other fields, law, science, um, health, and so on, who also happen to be very passionate about the environment from the global south. So I knew a lot of these young people, and I got them to write their own stories about their environmental issues and passions from whatever region of the world they happen to be from. And I also wrote educational articles interviewing scientists and experts about environmental issues, sustainable development issues in an educational way. And that went out to children ages, I think, about 13 to 24. So I'm no stranger to the environmental issues.
I'm like trying to like hold back my tears. I'm like, oh my God, I hope I just didn't sound like an idiot. I just like went off on this topic. And you're just like, oh yeah, by the way, I've been dealing with this for like 20 years. This is my perspective.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I was keen to stop, was because to live with all of this knowledge for a decade is incredibly stressful, and I pretty much was ready to have a nervous breakdown because I thought about nothing but the environmental crisis for 10 years straight. Um, so I am personally keen to do whatever I can to have a low carbon footprint. I don't go crazy. I'm not a vegan. I do clearly use computers. I'm on the internet. I'm on the internet all the time. I used to have to travel a lot. I used to have to fly all over the world for work, which felt really weird because I was flying to environmental conferences, right? Um, and that's always been a paradox. And just to be a human being is a paradox. There's no point in pretending that human beings are good for the planet. And I've chosen to only have one child and no more because I know each child will bring another burden to the planet. I did that on purpose, and I've stated that as an environmental statement, and I've had people walk away from me in mid-conversation when I've said that because they've been so offended by my decision to only have one child.
Let's pause here for a second because I used to joke multiple times to my sister, who's had 4 kids. And when I was very concerned about the environment, because like I, just like you, like none of this matters. Whatever we're doing now doesn't matter if nobody is going to be here to tell our stories in 25 years, in 50 years. So like when I read everything, when I was like watching documentaries and I was getting like deep into the science, eventually you realize we're the issue. Like the biggest solution to global warming, less of us. That's it. And it's unfortunate. Um, and I used to joke and say to my sister, "Your children are killing this planet. Stop having kids." And I love those kids to death. They are my second children. But like, I wasn't gonna have kids. I wasn't even gonna get married because like that pressure, like I don't know how to like erase that from my brain. Like once you know, you can't not know. You know?
I think people who don't choose not to have children should get a huge reward for not having children. I think they should get like, tens of thousands of dollars to do with what they, to put towards whatever project they want to thank them for not creating another source of pollution consumption.
That is not never going to be a political platform that anyone's going to run on.
Anyway, I do have a kid and I don't have any more. And her dad has had more children, and that's great because that means she gets to have siblings, but I didn't have to have them, and I feel okay about that. Anyway, to the point that I do think about the environment a lot. I have made it my life's work, and that's a huge part of what I've done. And being an artist, part of my job at being an artist is expressing my concerns of my life, and that is one of the concerns that I'm expressing through my art, whether it happens to be sold or presented on a crypto art platform or not, on Instagram or in a printout on a postcard and a greeting card. It really doesn't matter. Um, and so when I found out that crypto art carries such a high burden of carbon emissions, that has given me pause. I haven't minted anything new for the year of 2021 yet because I want to pause and learn more and make more careful decisions, even if that means instead of turning out a whole bunch of art that I'm selling for a really low price at that high of an emission, I have to think about, is it worth this many emission? Is it worth this many emissions? Just like when I think about flying to California to see my family, I think about how often have I done this? How long has it been since I've seen my parents? While I'm there, how long am I going to stay? I figure all that into my decision to fly. And now I'm also going to figure that in my decision to mint art, right? I'm not going to not make art, and I'm not going to stop trying to make my living from art, but I also recognize that crypto art is only one of the ways, and there are options coming up, and now that more of us in the community know about it, there are more of us making other decisions that will be more sustainable, and hopefully by doing that, just as with electric cars, for example, or wind turbines, we will move towards a more sustainable way of using these platforms. And I have faith that we can do that because we're human beings. If we can go to Mars, we can sell art without using 2 days worth of electricity, Maybe not today, but and I think the wave of criticism that's come out is The reason why it's so powerful for people to be able to criticize is because, of course, there's truth in that. We Nobody wants anybody to destroy anything because of what they're doing, having children, eating meat, flying, using Netflix all the time, watching YouTube all the time, constantly scrolling through TikTok for no reason whatsoever. All of those things are bad for the environment, right? And the reason why people are using it as leverage is because there's a real sour grapes feel about these people were here ahead of me. I feel like I've been left out. And so I'm going to criticize them for the fastest thing I can. Either I don't like the art that's being sold, or they're using up too much energy and that's really shocking and horrible, or whatever. People can always find a reason to criticize the thing that they feel like they feel left out of. And I think a lot of the force behind that criticism is out of envy and not true environmental concern. I responded to this by tweeting all of the environmentally concerned art projects that I'm a part of, and I'm a part of many. In fact, right now, I'm right in the middle of doing a public art project about climate change in my town, and tomorrow I'm starting a poetry workshop having to do with celebrating 5 species on the Norfolk coast and getting poets, local poets, to write poems to celebrate those 5 species to be published in the local paper of the conservation organization that looks after the Norfolk coasts. So that's what I do for a living. I actually do environmental media and art for a living. So there's no way I'm going to ignore this issue. So for all those people who are really upset, who are, or at least pretending to be really upset about how art is affecting the environment, I'm inviting them, instead of criticizing, to come on board and support some of the things that I'm actually working on. Donate to wild cards, buy an NFT that directly supports conservation organizations around the world. Um, Look for crypto artists who are supporting biodiversity efforts around the world, for example. There's all kinds of ways we can make this better, and we can refocus on what we can do rather than making artists feel ashamed of making a living for the first time in their lives.
And that's, I think, what it boils down to is, it's
The only good, basically what they're saying is the only good artist is a starving artist.
yes, exactly. And that's not how it should be. Like, when I was like introducing the podcast on Twitter to 5 people, um, I went on this rant that, like, artists put themselves, a piece of themselves, into their work. Like, it is, like, if it is an expression of emotion, that's your emotion. And Jen Stelko said earlier today that you're buying someone's imagination is what you're doing, essentially. That is, that's really like why I give you money for your work. It's because, like, one, I'm validating that, like, you have value, what you said has value, but also as just like recognition that, like, I am taking a piece of you away as well too, because part of you is in this. So, like, it's almost like a mutual respect and dialogue between consumer and creator that, like, yes, this is something of value and this says something about, like, our humanity.
You were asking earlier about people being confused about what they're buying when they're buying an NFT. So if you think about, for example, if there is a new gallery being built and it does a funding call, and some rich people, or even not that rich people, about 25 people, give the money to the gallery in order to build a beautiful new site, right? And then they carve those funders' names in stone, and that name goes up on the wall of the gallery. And so what have those funders purchased, right? So they're not purchasing their name being carved in the wall. They're basically giving money because they believe in what the gallery is doing, and they are proud to have the relationship with that gallery because they know that this is representing something that has aligned values with them, right? And that stone slab just means that forever those people will be memorialized long after everybody associated with that project is dead. Those people will forever be memorialized as having had a relationship with that gallery. And that forms all those people on that slab and the gallery form an artistic community. And that artistic community makes possible all future exhibitions and events and programs that happen at that gallery because of that original community that came together, shared resources to create something, right? So that's what's happening with NFTs. You're not buying a digital file. You may receive a digital file in exchange for passing some money, whatever the hell that is, passing some points over to some fake numbers that we made up and decided were valuable to the artist that they can then trade for other fake numbers that they can then exchange for food. But that artist may send you a postcard, or they may send you a canvas, or they may send you a high-res JPEG or video or whatever, but that's completely missing the point. What you're doing is creating a relationship with that artist through their art. And what you have to offer that artist, if it's not your own piece of art, is you have these points that the artist gratefully accepts as a medium of exchange of energy for you connecting with their work. And the magic is happening in the connection, not in the transaction, if that makes sense. And so if you were to, for example, I have a friend whose dad is a sculptor, and he was asking me about NFTs. He said, "How can I make my father's huge monumental sculptures into an NFT?" And I said, "Well, you could do it like the gallery metaphor, right? If you made 25 NFTs and people gave you 1 ETH each in order to have a sense of relationship and ownership of that sculpture. Clearly, if I tried to ship that sculpture over to my house, that would be, where would I put it? I have to get rid of the TV. Like I don't actually want the sculpture in my front yard. I just love this sculpture and this artist so much and what he stands for that I want to forever be associated with his work and his vision, and me offering something like ETH is in return for something as unique as like a share in this vision, this beautiful vision. That is incredibly of value. It's about connection. So I think that's one thing that's happened in the crypto art world is that a lot of artists who are just starting out, we were buying each other's work, not just because we want to support each other, but because we like each other's art, and that affirmation means more than whatever fraction of ETH we're getting from anybody, you know? The affirmation gives us the strength and courage to carry on expressing ourselves and understand that we are worthy. In an ideal world, we wouldn't need to look to externalities for that affirmation. In an ideal world, we would all be enlightened, and I would know that I'm worthy no matter what. But right now, for most of us, we need a little bit encouragement. And I think that's one thing that the crypto art community has been really great about. There's a huge exchange of affirmation, and that's why we stick around through all the crazy drama and all the volatility of the market and the gas fees,
Right.
you know.
Yeah. I used to think that going back to music, before I was aware of NFTs and before I was like in this world, I used to think like the last like true medium for art that is going to be sustainable or that people are going to be willing to pay for in the near future was live music, because of that human connection. You are in an arena, or hopefully a basement of a dive bar, seeing one of your favorite bands with other people that are having the same emotional connection to the music. And you can't get that feeling watching them on TV. You can't get that experience except for when you are in a pit or, up in the rafters seeing a band. Like, you are having an experience, and that is going to be the last thing that's valuable to people. And then I found out about this and NFTs and stuff, and it completely destroyed, something I thought that was very profound and philosophical. And now it's like, oh no, Joe, that's not important anymore, because look at NFTs. It's bringing back that sense of community and, that interaction. Like I said, like, I've been in here 2 months, and I am talking to people like Sparrow, who is brilliant, and her art, like, just, when I saw it, I was just like, oh my God, like, this is incredible. And before I got introduced to Women of Crypto Art, and even just the way I got introduced to you guys, I just sent an email to Anne at Super Rare, and she was like, yeah, go meet all these cool people. Trevor Jones, like, I just sent an email to him, and he was like, yeah, I'll take a look at your questions for a piece for you to write up. Like, I shouldn't, I've only been here 2 months. Like, I shouldn't have access to, like, people like him or even Sparrow or like you. Like, but you guys are just like, yeah, come on in. Come on in. Come talk with us. Sit down. You want a drink? Cool, I got something. It's just like, and I'm still struggling with this and trying to figure out what the solution is, but like, it's almost like I don't want to get caught up in the speculative portion of art anymore, because talking to you guys, listening to your stories and stuff, like that has more meaning to me and more value than, the actual money portion of it. Like, this is fun. And every time, like, I get off the phone, like, my wife asks me how it goes, and it was like, I just met another person that could, like, hang out with us. And, when we start traveling again, now I have places to go, and I can say, like, hey, I'm going to be in the UK. Can I meet up with you guys and, like, get a drink and just, like, talk about the last, like, 3 years of craziness? Like, it's just, I don't know. Like, and I don't know if, like I want to support artists, but at the same time, like, I don't want to, like, get caught up in people that are coming in looking to make a quick buck. So I don't know what my solution is going to be to that. But, like, this stuff, like, you and I just sitting here talking, and someone's paying me to talk to you about it, is awesome. It's like, that's the best thing.
That's the life. That's the awesome life of a writer.
Yes,
which is actually what I spent more of my life doing
exactly.
than art.
Right. And that's, like, what I wanted to do. And that's, like, they're all humanities, like, psychology, philosophy, writing, art. They're all humanities. It's about, like, what's being a person. That's the stuff that interests me. Just, like, figuring it out. Like,
you get to ask loads of questions and be curious and get people to talk to you.
Exactly. And it's fun.
Yeah, it's really great.
Yeah.
It's an awesome way to make a living. It's true. Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure that if you're talking to me and Edda and Sparrow, that you're getting the same message, that for us it's really about creating community and uplifting people as a collective, rather than about individual stardom or making a gigantic amount of money. There's certainly a huge, I mean, you don't have to go far to find a whole bunch of cynicism and a bunch of people running in, scribbling some stuff out in order to make a quick buck. And maybe that's sustainable. I don't know. I don't think that's how I want to use my carbon karma. Um, I really, I didn't wait this long, all my life to start art, to sort of fritter it away, you know, making a bunch of things that don't mean anything to me at all, and then using a huge amount of carbon emissions in order to put it into the world. I'm very selective about what I mint, and I no longer do any kind of shilling. If someone wants my art and they happen to find it, then great. I don't do art drops or anything like that. Not because I'm too good for it, but because that's just not how that's not how I want to spend my time. I want to spend my time practicing and making art and thinking about things, and I also have to just make a living. Um, but having said that, I also want to say that for those artists who have not been able to make a living in other ways, who are able to make a living doing this, then absolutely more power to them. I happen to be in a really lucky position where I don't have to sell NFTs in order to survive yet. So I have the luxury of hitting pause and saying, "Hey, I want to rethink this. I want to rethink how I do this and what my impact is going to be on other people and what my impact is going to be on the environment, and maybe I can do something else with my time that will ultimately feed into my artistic output." But for me, the the process of creating art has always been more important to me than whatever it is I happen to output. I've been incredibly grateful for the platforms because it's given me access to a whole world and community, and I've learned an incredible amount of stuff. I mean, not just about people, but technology and cryptocurrency and economies, and it's been a really good catalyst for thinking about a lot of different issues that are important to me.
I'd like to thank my guests for taking the time to speak with me. I'd also like to thank the DJ, Aiden, for allowing me to use his music. And if you liked what you heard, make sure to subscribe, like, and share it. Thanks for listening.